Hello, welcome to another episode of Ryan on Gaming. Today's topic is, are developers actually lazy? Are they really lazy? Do developers actually do lazy things in their games? And this is another one of those things where it's like, up front, yeah, there's totally examples where developers are lazy, but the talking point I would like to make to you all today is that sort of misconceptions that a lot of people have and what they think is lazy when in actuality it's not. Now this topic, I wrote this topic down a while ago. A while ago I did Let's Talk PlayStation, and there was some news story regarding Drive Club being 30 frames per second instead of 60 frames per second. And I got a comment from some guy, and I don't know if he's still subscribed or still watching. I don't remember your name offhand, sir. But he mentioned how he felt the Drive Club developers, Evolution Studios, was lazy because the game was 30 frames per second rather than 60. And I read that and I was like, are you serious, dude? So I commented back and said, you know, not to pick a fight or anything, but that's quite frankly absurd. You know, clearly the game, it's a situation basis. I said, you know, clearly this game is not being lazily made. The developer has chosen to do 30 frames per second. Evolution Studios could clearly do 60 if they wanted to. They chose to do 30 because they chose more visual fidelity in the game. They wanted to add more graphical, you know, prettiness to the game, right? That's just kind of games 101. You lower the frame rate, you can get more visual impact out of your title. And I said, I asked the guy, I was like, do you really think that's lazy, that they chose just a certain route of development on their game? This is a team of hardworking people. People have played this game at Gamescom and E3. Clearly the game has a level of polish that is very nice. I mean, the game's looking great. Like, to flat out call them lazy over that, I was like, come on, dude, really? And then he replied back saying, you know, I mean, maybe I misused the word lazy, but he was, you know, upset that the game was 30 rather than 60, and that's, you know, that's fine. But that's what kind of sparked this topic for me is, you know, a lot of people like to throw around that word lazy, especially with developers, you know. And of course, it's so easy to do anything behind a computer when you're just typing a comment on the internet, right? But because some people don't legitimately think of these things, that you know, a video game, especially a AAA title, costs millions and millions of dollars, and a team of hundreds and hundreds of people to make. And at that point, you know, there's certain concessions where it's like it's not lazy. This is just what the developer's doing, or you know, there's certain elements to it. Right now, let's pick another game, for example. Another game was the Jak and Daxter collection on PlayStation Vita. Now, it did not run very well. The game ran like 20 frames per second, like the whole damn game. It was completely shoddy. The audio would drop out in certain sections. The game would crash on me multiple times. It was a bad port. It was not good. So, you know, the question is, was that lazy work? Was that lazy work on the developer's part? And I don't know for sure. Now, what I would be inclined to say is that, you know, something like that's a contract job. You know, I believe the developer was Mass Media, I think, and that's contract work. So Sony, you know, contracted them to port the game to PlayStation Vita. That means they were given a deadline by Sony. They were given, you know, so and so money with so and so time to complete the project, and you know, I don't know if that was a result of them having to meet the deadline. I don't know if that was a result of actual lazy work. Maybe it was a result of the PlayStation Vita not being able to properly, you know, handle all the, you know, all three Jak games on one little cartridge or something. I mean, I don't know for sure. And that's kind of a separate topic we'll talk about later in terms of, you know, Vita handling certain titles and being pushed to its limits, because it is a very powerful handheld, but there are certain titles that are on that machine that it really makes you question if it can handle it or not, like Borderlands 2. Anyway, that's besides the point. So with the Jak collection, I'm not entirely sure if that was lazy or not, you know, but that's certainly one that's kind of up for question. But I think I speak for a lot of developers when I say, like, they're not lazy, but there is certainly examples where a developer is lazy. I mean, one thing is kind of like, you know, like assets in the game, like, you know, certain textures for a tree, or, you know, textures for a certain building, or enemy AI and assets for a game that are constantly being reused and possible DLC or the sequel to that game. I mean, that could possibly be construed as lazy, but at the same time, it's just maybe smart on the developer's part to reuse assets from previous builds to, you know, I mean, make the project more cost efficient. You know, I mean, especially with the industry, it doesn't have a lot of great job security, especially in the past few years. We've seen a lot of developers go under, a lot of publishers go under, a lot of people losing their jobs, a lot of people getting laid off. It seems like a lot of jobs in the industry, it's like temp jobs, and even when you're with a developer for 10 plus years, you could still end up getting laid off. Like, there's not a whole lot of job security. So, and that's not to say like it justifies, you know, maybe lazy work, but and again, it kind of also, you know, hinges on the word lazy. Like, you know, is it lazy or is it just smart on the developer's part to go about a certain way, which again could be like reusing assets, or maybe, you know, it was, you know, the thing is we're not developers and we weren't actually there when the particular game in question was being made. I wasn't there when Drive Club was being developed. I wasn't there when the Jack port was being developed. Another example is Diablo 3 Ultimate Evil Edition on Xbox One. That game was originally going to be 900p for the resolution, and then the story broke out that Microsoft got a hold of you know, Blizzard, and told them, hey, like, we'll help you and we'll get the game to 1080p because, you know, it was so unacceptable. And some people thought, okay, well, that's kind of lazy on Blizzard's part that they couldn't get the most out of the Xbox One and they couldn't get most out of the machine. And, you know, I again kind of stand back to that news story and think, well, obviously Blizzard would want to make the game as pretty and as great as it could possibly be. And this has happened all the time in the industry, where sometimes Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft will step in and help third-party developers. They will show them how to, they will give them SDK help, they will give them extra resources, they will send people there to help them out, and that was just the case with Microsoft. I wouldn't consider, you know, Blizzard lazy because they couldn't get the game to 1080p. I mean, these are people that, I mean, I would assume they got people on Blizzard that, you know, they know what they're doing, right? I mean, it's just like, I'm sure you guys could probably post tons of examples where a developer was obviously, clearly being lazy. I'm not remembering a crap load off the top of my head. I just came up with a few examples as to why they could possibly not be lazy. Because as I said earlier in the video, sure, definitely, there are some where they are lazy, but that wasn't the kind of the point I was trying to hinge on. I was more so focusing on, like, when people sort of, you know, misinterpret what lazy is, and especially with the Drive Club thing. I mean, oh, because the game's not 60 frames per second. It's not lazy. That was Evolution Studios' choice to make that game 30 frames per second. And that goes into another topic, which a bunch of people do not seem to understand when it comes to frame rate and resolution. People always talk about this. Why can't the PS4 do 60 frames per second 1080p, or why can't Xbox One do it? PS3 can do it. GameCube can do it. It's about what the developer wants to do. A game can be 60 frames per second on the GameCube, but the problem is, if you want to do a higher frame rate, if you want to do a higher resolution, you have to lower the visual quality of the game. You have to, you know, do a lot of back-end work on the game. You have to lower certain qualities of the game if you want to increase frame rate and resolution. People don't seem to understand that. If a PS4 game is 900p, it's because the developer has openly chosen to increase other assets of the game, like visuals, for example, or, you know, they want to put more NPCs on the screen at one time. You know, people are not understanding that, and that was a perfect example with the whole Drive Club thing. They weren't lazy. They purposely chose to go 30 frames per second because they wanted that game to look as pretty as possible. And hey, not to be that guy, but like, Drive Club looks fucking beautiful, you know? So it's like, I'm not gonna call them lazy. They seem to have been doing, they seem to be doing a good job so far, and the game's actually due to come out soon, so kind of looking forward to playing that now. By the way, with the whole resolution and frames per second thing, of course, that only applies to consoles, because consoles are closed boxes. You know, when they're made, when the hardware is shipped, that's the same hardware for 5+ years. Obviously with PC, because I know someone's going to chime in and say it, but yes, PC, of course, games can be made to whatever, right? I mean, a lot of developers put options into PC games to allow to go up to higher resolutions and higher frame rates depending on the actual machine that's running the game, but just putting that in there, because I know some people like to chime that in. Anyway, that's about it for this discussion of Brian on gaming. Hope you all enjoyed. Please, if I've said it before, I'll say it again, submit topics. I'm running out of ideas already, so please let me know what you'd like to hear my opinion on gaming, and I'll see you in my next video. So that about does it, and take care, guys.